boxing fans, to another episode of the Saved by the Bell podcast with myself and my co-host H. In today's episode, we're going to be catching up with a weekend review, and we've also got some fights upcoming in the upcoming weekend. Between the ladies, there's a lot going on there. We've got a big one of the weekend, in my opinion, is Jaime Munguia versus Bruno Surace. And we've also got one on Sunday. This fight I didn't actually know about. Dillian Whyte versus Ebenezer Tetteh. But before we get into all that, how you doing, H? And did you enjoy the weekend's boxing?
Yes, Dark Side, how you doing, my bro? I hope you're doing good. Yeah, thank you for asking me how I'm doing. I'm doing good. You know, just enjoying myself, taking it easy. Weekend, it was great. I can't lie to you. I enjoyed myself. There was a lot going on. Magnificent Seven. Then we had some fights over in the States. How can you go wrong? We got to finish the year off with a bang, and the year's not done yet. We still got a few more fights up and coming, but let's just talk about this weekend itself. Let's dive straight into the Magnificent Seven.
Absolutely.
Overall, it was a great event. We're not going to cover every single fight, but the magnitude of this was absolutely spot on. Great fights, great matchups. It was beautiful. But let's talk about Solomon Dakers versus David Adelaide. Now, after the fight, it should be David Adelaide versus Solomon Dakers. But listen, anyways, back to the thing. So we've got Solomon Dakers versus David Adelaide. Wow. That's how I'm going to start this off. Wow.
Yeah.
Fucking hell. First round knockout. That was a brutal left hook to the temple of Solomon Dakers, which Solomon Dakers could not recover from. Listen, and you know what's funny? I'll tell you what's funny. He actually got hit with that same shot twice before the final knockout punch.
Yeah.
David Adelaide was giving a feint to the body, and as he was giving a feint to the body, bow! He's bringing it up to the left hook. Do you know what I mean? But he missed the first two, and on the third one, he landed and he dropped Solomon Dakers. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, I thought Solomon Dakers would beat David Adelaide due to Solomon Dakers being the more active fighter.
Yeah.
Solomon Dakers coming off back-to-back wins. Solomon Dakers being undefeated. David Adelaide coming off an injury. David Adelaide being on a 14-month layoff. So I thought, you know what, with all those things being said, Solomon Dakers would have won this fight, not by knockout, but by unanimous decision.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be a whitewash, it would be a very close victory, you know what I mean? But damn, was I wrong. David Adelaide came back. David Adelaide showed the boxing community, he showed the heavyweight division, yo, Punk's daddy's back.
Yeah.
And he's letting everyone know in the heavyweight game, I've got serious power in both hands. You lot better be ready. So yes, my brother, I'm asking you the same thing. What was your thoughts on this fight between Solomon Dakers versus David Adelaide?
Well, there wasn't that much to break down from this fight, was there? I mean, there was only really a handful of shots been thrown. But look, what do we learn from this fight? I think the one thing that we've learned is something that I think most of us probably already knew, is that David Adelaide is a power puncher. He does hold power in both hands. But one thing I'll give him credit for is, like you said, it wasn't the first or the second time he tried to throw that shot. He kept throwing it until he landed it. And you have to give him some credit for being persistent and not giving up, because it didn't work the first couple of times. But I have to say, that's one of the cleanest left hooks to the top of the head I have seen. Like, as I was saying to you earlier, like, it's very rare to see that happen in boxing. Like, you don't see many people get hit on the top of the head with the left hook, because it's the strongest part of the head. Normally, you're going to do damage to your hand if you punch people in the top of the head, but that was just a perfectly executed left hook. Fair play to David Adelaide, because I, like myself, did think that Solomon Dakers had a lot of the advantages in his favor. He's also the taller fighter. I believe he's got a slightly longer reach as well. And my closing thoughts are, great performance from David Adelaide. Now let's see him get back out there within a short space of time, keep him active, and get him in with someone of a similar caliber of opponent.
You know what? Speaking of getting him back out there, speaking of keeping him busy, he was asked, David Adelaide, after the fight, was asked, what do you think of a potential matchup with Fraser Clark? And David Adelaide dismissed the thought of that. He said, listen, Fraser Clark is doing his thing, I'm doing my thing. I'm on to bigger and better things. Basically dismissing Fraser Clark, saying, you're not on my levels. But with that being said, and with us talking about his potential next matchups, I've got a few names I want to throw in there. I want to see David Adelaide fight, these guys, see if he's ready for them. We've got Jared Baby Anderson from America. He just took a loss to Martin Bacoli.
Yeah.
Why not? That's a good matchup. You know what I mean? It's a test for David Adelaide, and it's a test for Anderson. Do you know what I mean? Maybe it's a bit premature, but listen, hey, who's got time to waste? It's 2024, bro. The heavyweight game is on fire. Let's make these fights happen. Do you know what I mean? Let's not mess around. Anyways, we've got another possibility, Joe Joyce.
Yeah.
But is that a step too far?
I think that's too far.
Maybe. Who knows?
Yeah.
And I got one more potential name that I can throw in there. Hughie Fury versus David Adelaide. Hey, listen.
That's going to be a very, very tough fight. That would be an excellent fight to watch, but it would be a very tough fight, in my opinion, for Adelaide, based on Hughie Fury's experience. But what I will say just briefly is about the Fraser Clark fight. The reason why I think that's a fight he shouldn't dismiss is because Fraser Clark has also lost to Fabio Wardley. They've both lost to the same man. And a good way to get back at a rematch is to be able to defeat the guy who he previously defeated. So being somewhat level with beating the same opponent, he might say, okay, now you beat the same opponent as me. Let's give it another shot. Let's have another rematch and see where we go. Because I think for David Adelaide, it's quite important that he does go in and try and avenge that loss against Fabio. If he does go to become a world champion, as an example, but not have that rematch, a lot of people are going to always say that about him and say, but
true.
You became world champion, but you never beat the guy who beat you.
Yeah.
So
I mean, David Adelaide did say, listen, I'm going to get a rematch with Fabio Wardley. I am. But right now, he knows and he accepts and he acknowledges that Fabio Wardley is flying colors right now. You know what I mean? So for the meantime, he's going to let Fabio Wardley do his thing, but their paths will definitely cross again. Yeah. So that's my thoughts on that. Anyway, let's move on to, since we're talking about a heavyweight game and since we're talking about first round knockouts, let's talk about Lawrence Okolie. Fucking hell, mate. You know what I mean? First of all, I want to talk about his move from the bridgerweight division, moving up to the heavyweight division, 18.5 stone. No, 18 stone and a half right now. The bastard is 3 stones heavier than what he used to be. Do you know what I mean? He's a fucking big guy, bro. Have you seen the fucking size of him? So he fits the frame perfectly.
He does.
And after the fight, he did mention that, bridgerweight and cruiserweight, I had to make weight, I had to cut down this and that. I felt tired. But now I'm in the heavyweight game. I feel full. I feel energized. I'm ready to go. Every single round, I can let shots fly all the way up until the 12th round. And that's what we like to hear, especially from the heavyweights. Because, most of these heavyweights nowadays gas out after the 6th. But anyways, let's move on to Lawrence Okolie versus Hussein. First round knockout.
Yeah.
There's no clinching. There was no grabbing.
It's true.
It was textbook boxing from Lawrence Okolie. What's going on there, brother? Hey, are we going to see a new Lawrence Okolie? Have we seen a changed man in Lawrence Okolie? But before we go into that, let's go into the fight. Now, from the bell, as soon as the bell rang, Lawrence Okolie was composed, was in pressure. He was applying pressure on Hussein. He was the one in control of this fight. He was the one that's setting up the shots, landing the shots. Hussein was basically a punching bag. That's literally what he was. I don't think I saw one punch land from Hussein on Lawrence Okolie. And even when he did try to go and stand and bang, what happened? He got put to sleep. Listen, what's your thoughts on this fight? because there's not a lot. But what's your thought on Lawrence Okolie's performance? How about that?
Again, there's not much to really make because we only have a short space of time. But what I would say is, going back to what you said before, Lawrence Okolie, whether people like to take this on board or not, he is a 2-weight world champion. And if he goes on to become a world champion in the heavyweight division, he will be a 3-weight world champion, which puts him amongst a very small group of elite fighters that have managed to conquer 3 divisions, heavyweight being one of them, and then obviously 2 other divisions. There are not many who have done that. I think Duke McKenzie's one. I think Roy Jones Jr. is another one. I think that might be it off the top of my head. There may be 1 or 2 more, but it's a very small pool of people. So I think he has ambitions to be a world champion at the heavyweight division. And, you've become world champion in 2 other divisions. I say, why not? Especially if, you feel like you're struggling to make the weight in the lower divisions. It's going to take less toll on your body. But what do I make of the actual fight? I just think Lawrence was just waiting to set up the counter. If you look at what he was doing and you pay attention to about a minute beforehand, you can see Lawrence is looking to try and throw a counter shot when he throws a shot at the same time. And he did miss on a couple of occasions. I think he missed once or twice. But that one time that he did land, boy, that was an absolute flat line of a punch. I just remember seeing, as soon as he laid on his back, I knew that was the end of the fight. It was all over. So great counter punching from Lawrence Okolie, took his time, and a great knockout. That's all I can really make of it, to be honest.
Hey, listen, Lawrence Okolie is with Joe Gallagher. That's his trainer. He's in the heavyweight game now. We all know in a few years, the big boys, Tyson Fury, Usyk, AJ, Dillian Whyte, Derek Chisora, etc., etc., etc. These boys will be out the game, and it's a new heavyweight era right now. So Lawrence Okolie is a threat in the heavyweight division, and everyone in the heavyweight division must acknowledge that, because, like you said, he's a 2-time champion.
Yeah.
Cruiserweight and Bridgerweight. Now let's move on to heavyweight. Now, you don't become champion if you're just the average Joe. I always say this. And now that Lawrence Okolie is in the heavyweight game, after the fight, he got asked, what about a potential fight with Joe Joyce? And he basically said, listen, Joe Joyce is a good fighter. You know what I mean? He does his thing. But I'm chasing titles.
Yeah.
Lawrence Okolie said, I am chasing titles. I want to become a 3 times champion. And that's his next move. That's his goal. He wants to become champion in the heavyweight game. So my thing is, if Lawrence Okolie wants to be a heavyweight champion, he wants to fast track himself, because he's already a 2 times champion in 2 other divisions. So maybe he's got a little bit more. He maybe has a little bit more of a pass to get fast tracked. Yeah. So my thing is, if he wants to become a champion and he don't want to have fights just for the sake of having fights, what's his next best fight to get closer to a title shot? Because you can't just get to a title shot without fighting anyone. You must fight someone of some credential, some potential, some threat for you to say, you know what, he's gonna get close to the title shot. So let me ask you, Dark Side, who do you think Lawrence Okolie should fight next in order to get closer to the title?
That's a good question. Based on the fact that it's his first fight, I know he wants to rush to get a title. First, let's look at who the champions are. We got Usyk and we got Daniel Dubois. Usyk is tied up with Fury. If Usyk loses, there's going to be a rematch. If Usyk wins, we don't know what he's going to do. Daniel Dubois is the more likely target for a Lawrence Okolie, and I think that is achievable. However, I know they're not going to put him straight in there. Like you said, he's going to have a few fights to be able to get to that sort of level. I would probably go and look at, like what I said earlier in the episode, sometimes you go after previous opponents of the champion that they've beaten. So I'd go and look at a Hrgovic. I'd go and look at a Big Baby Miller. I'd go and look at fights like that. See if you can get a couple of fights like that under your belt. If you can go and beat a Miller, go and beat a Hrgovic or somewhere in that level, then you put yourself in the conversation for potential fights against you know, a Daniel Dubois. However, I still think that he's probably about a few fights away from getting that. Probably about 3, maybe 4. Just depends on who he fights and the caliber of fighters that he fights in the next few fights he has.
Hey, listen, Lawrence Okogie ain't going nowhere. We ain't going nowhere. Take your time, enjoy your journey, and you'll be there eventually.
Yeah.
But let's move on now. We are talking about the heavyweight game. Let's talk about another heavyweight, but not from the UK. Let's talk about the opposition, the pagans, America. Yeah, let's talk about a guy called Richard Torres Jr. You know what? What a great performance. It was an early stoppage as well. Round 3 stoppage. The referee jumped in and said, hey, this guy is getting absolutely slaughtered. His opponent, Munez, I don't think landed one shot or one clean shot on Richard Torres Jr. Richard Torres Jr. was in there, absolutely peppered his opponent with the jabs, triple jabs, hooks, crosses, body shots. Wow. Richard Torres Jr., I wouldn't say it was a competitive fight, no way, but it was more like it was more like watching a guy, punch the shit out of a heavyweight bag, and you're like, oh shit, this guy can punch. That's literally what it was, but it was a human. Do you know what I mean? Listen, I always said, Richard Torres Jr., he's got a little special. He's a silver Olympian. You don't become a silver Olympian by just being an average Joe. And he's proven it now in his fights. Every single fight has come via knockout or via stoppage decision, except for one. And that's like, what, 90% knockout ratio? 99% knockout ratio. And so he's a threat. He's a threat. I'll be real. He's a threat. He's an up-and-coming threat, just as we have up-and-coming threats in our division, like Moses Atama, Johnny Fisher. We've got David Adelaide, Fraser Clark. We've got Fabio Wardley. The same way, in America, they've got their own killers up and rising, and they're all in the heavyweight division. So remember, I did say this is all a new heavyweight era. Everyone's building up. Everyone's building up. The next few years, they're all going to be on the same level as AJ, Furies, and all that. Big names. So the heavyweight division, I can't wait for it in the next few years. But let me ask you, what did you make your performance on Richard Torres Jr.? I know it's not a lot, but what did you do? What did you make of it?
We have a lot of fights that weren't a lot to talk about because so quickly. But again, I think it was a very, very good performance. Richard Torres, he looks like that kind of fighter from like the 70s/80s, if you know what I mean. But he boxes like, he's got a very unusual punch style as well. But he's very accurate and he's very powerful with his shots. And from what I can see from his technical ability, he looks technically good. He looks like he's got power in both hands. I think this guy's got potential to you know, potentially be a world champion in the next sort of generation of heavyweights coming along. He's going to be in that conversation, and it's going to be an interesting ride. So I think people should stay watching his fights and keep up with him and see what he does in the future.
Most definitely. I mean, listen, the heavyweight game is on absolute fire. Probably one of the most best divisions right now in the sport of boxing, especially with all the rising talent as well. It's only getting bigger and better. So, yeah, man, let's keep our eyes on Richard Torres Jr. Who knows? He could be fighting one of our boys soon.
Yeah.
Anyway, speaking of Americans, let's move on to Rafael Espinoza versus Bexcy Ramirez. Wow. Before we get on to how the fight got stopped, let's get on to how the fight started. Now, from round 1 to round 3, it was your typical throw the punches, hit your opponent by Rafael, and then counter with the Ramirez.
Yeah.
It was literally back and forth. It was good. I'm not gonna lie, it was action packed.
Yeah.
I was thinking, oh yeah, we're gonna get another great fight, just like the first one. Round 4, same thing. Up until round 4, it was a great fight. It was, I think it was maybe 50-50 in my eyes. Tell me if I'm wrong. And then round 5 come, bosh. Rafael Espinoza hits Bexcy on the eye, and Bexcy Ramirez says, ref, call it off. I'm done. Now, obviously, Ramirez's team was saying that it was an elbow in the last round that did that. And Bexcy Ramirez went to the corner and said, yo, I got hit with the elbow. I can't really see. and the corner said to Ramirez, "It's all right. Go out there. You're good. You'll wear off. You get your vision back again." But I think while that was taking place, he got hit with another shot right on his eye, and that done the dance for him. If I'm not mistaken, I think he damaged his orbital bone. If I'm not mistaken. So obviously, a lot of people are saying in the comments, a lot of people, a lot of fans, a lot of commentators, a lot of boxers saying, "Oh, you're a quitter, man. You quit. You quit the fight. You're not a real fighter." They're roasting him, innit?
Yeah.
Because they're saying, "Oh, there's many other fighters that have had broken jaws and they've continued fighting, broken toes, broken hands, and they've continued fighting. Why didn't you continue fighting?" But let me ask you this. What did he make of the performance, and what did he make of the decision that Ramirez ultimately quit?
Well, first on the performance, I thought it was a great fight while it lasted. It wasn't a long fight, as we all know, but it was quite competitive. I thought that Rafael was very good in the opening round, and then Bexcy Ramirez started to come on a bit stronger in the second, third, and fourth round, where he's starting to come in and land a lot of counter shots. And I felt like he was almost growing into the fight. But then just at that point, he got hit with that one shot on the eye and then put his hand up and he said, "Nah, I'm done." Now, all I can say is, look, the fight was starting to heat up, and I believe that the fight was about to get really good, like the first fight was. But it's just really unfortunate that the fight had to be stopped. Now we know that he had double vision. Now, there's a lot of people out there saying, "Oh, people have fought with broken jaws and broken this and broken that before, and they've come back." Now, the thing about having broken jaws and broken, feet or toes or hands, those can all heal. But if you have damaged vision and you get hit with a bad shot when it's already damaged and you lose your eyesight, you have to ask yourself, is it worth it to lose your eyesight, or should you call it off and fight another day? And I personally think he did the right decision by calling the fight off. We go back and look at Daniel Dubois. I think he's a perfect example. When he had the fight with Joe Joyce, he did exactly the same thing. He got hit on the eye. He thought something's wrong with his vision. He had a pain in his eye and he's like, "Nah, I'm calling over the fight." He did that. It later came out that he had a broken orbital bone and a partially detached retina. If that had gone fully detached, he would have lost his eyesight. So it wasn't worth it for him to continue fighting. He thought, "You know what? I'm going to give it up and I'll live to fight another day." And sure enough, he did. He went on a rampage run where he took out several good name opponents. And now we all know he's a world champion. There's only 2 world champions currently in the heavyweight division, and he happens to be one of them. So sometimes I think it's worth it. If you think your eyesight is at risk, then you should save yourself to fight another day.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, man. Listen, it's 2024. It's not the 1980s. It's not the 1970s. It's not the 1990s. It's not even the early 2000s. It's 2024. The people are much more awake, much more aware of their safety. The people are just much more awake. With that being said, we've seen from the past experiences what happens to these fighters who are savages, who are warriors. Later on down the line, they're absolute. Well, what's going on here? Where's the balloons come from? What's going on
That
here?
was so random. I don't know.
What the hell? Anyways, but yeah, like I was saying, we've learned from the past. We've learned from the past fighters' mistakes. Look at these guys. Most of these guys that are fighting with damaged jaws, damaged eyesight. Now look at them. They're nowhere. They're almost like disabled. Do you know what I mean? To a certain extent, the speech is gone. The shaking. So it's always good, and it's always a good sign when a boxer knows what's good for himself. Like Bexcy Ramirez, he knew what was good for him, not what was good for the fans.
Yeah.
You gotta put yourself first, because ultimately you pay your bills, you feed your family, and it's your health and safety on the line. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Once you retire, once you get injured, the fans, they're gonna move on to someone new. The fans are not going to remember you. The fans are not going to pay your bills. Ultimately, you got to pay your own bills. And with that being said, I think Bexcy Ramirez made the right decision by saying, you know what, fuck it, live to fight another day.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of fighters should take note from that as well, instead of bashing him, saying, oh, you're pussy, you quit. A lot of fighters should take notes. That was a smart decision. This is chess, not checkers.
Exactly.
Yes, but anyways, let's move on to another rematch. Emmanuel Navarrete versus Oscar Valdez. Wow. You know what? This was your classic beatdown. Wow. I did not expect such a brutal beatdown in this fight. I would have thought this would be an even fight, or maybe even a competitive fight as the first one. But wow, was I wrong. In the rematch, this was a complete beatdown by Navarrete on Oscar Valdez. Fucking hell. Round one, Navarrete drops Oscar Valdez. Round one. I said, what's going on here? Opening round. How? Oscar Valdez. What's going on, brother? And then from there, it just went downhill.
Yeah.
The amount of knockdowns, the amount of times that Navarrete sent Oscar Valdez flying to the ropes, I was thinking, fucking hell, mate. It was almost sad to see.
Yeah.
At a point, it was almost sad to see because it was completely one-sided.
Yeah.
And that one-sided beatdown came from Navarrete. Like, it wasn't even competitive. It wasn't even, you know what? Let me give Oscar a chance. No, Navarrete had his foot on the gas the whole fight. Didn't give Oscar Valdez a single chance to recover. Didn't give him a single chance to get in the motion. and any time they tried to get in the motion, he got stopped with a barrage of shots. Damn. I mean, what a great performance from Emmanuel Navarrete. It goes to show you what kind of champ he is. It goes to show you what kind of warrior he is. But you know what? We're not going to completely write off Oscar Valdez. He held it up.
No.
He held it down. He came back up after many knockdowns. He came back up after, getting hit with a number of shots, getting absolutely peppered, and he still stayed there. Absolute savage, absolute Mexican warrior. But ultimately, congratulations to Emmanuel Navarrete. Let me get your thoughts on this fight here, bruv.
My thoughts on this fight were much similar to yours. It was quite sad because it wasn't competitive. The first fight was as great as it was because it was so back and forth. And I think that back and forth aspect was lost in this fight, and that's what made it a little bit sad to see. But let's not stay on the sad tone. Let's stay on the positives. On the positives, I think Navarrete goes on to prove that he is a top-class operator. I've always thought this guy is a top guy. And he's proved it now time and time and time again. He keeps proving that he's a top opponent. He's got a bit of an unusual boxing style. I mean, the way he throws his punches are sometimes a little bit unorthodox, a little bit awkward somehow. But somehow he manages to generate a lot of power in his shots. And you can only just credit him. I mean, I think he's proved himself now to be the top guy in that division, in my personal opinion. I think he beats them all. And it's going to be interesting to see who he fights next, because surely from this point on, you've just got to go and conquer the rest of the division and then decide whether you're going to move up or not. But for Emmanuel Navarrete, great performance, on to bigger and better things. For Valdez, look, he's got heart, he's got will, and he's got determination. He's got grit. He's a warrior. But sometimes that just isn't enough. And sometimes when you come up against a guy who's literally impeccable, he's got everything in his advantage. He's got everything in his arsenal. He throws every type of shot that you can imagine. Power in both hands, footwork good, head movement good, defense good. I mean, there's not many holes that you can really pick. So, Valdez, like you said, he's not done. He's still a top fighter, and there's still other good fights for him. But I think what he needs to do is step down a little bit from that elite level, just a tiny bit. Going to have a couple of fights, slightly a step down, and then see if you can get yourself back into a title contention again.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, man. That's a wrap for the weekend review. Gosh. What's going on, my people? We've got another great event coming. No, a number of great events coming this weekend on the 14th of December. Let me kick things off straight away with the women's. The females, we got to show them some love too. Just as much as we show love to the men's division, we got to show love to the women's division also. Maybe even more. What do you reckon, Darkside?
Oh,
You like that one? I know you like that one. All right, cool. Let's get things crack-a-lacking straight away. Let's fly over to Australia. Now, this event, what's going on here? These things, what's going on here, bro? Anyways, let's fly. Yeah, I don't know what's going on here. Anyway, let's fly over to Australia. Now, this event is taking place on December the 13th. Now, we do know Australia is 12 hours ahead of us. So it's really and truly the 14th of December. But obviously on paper it's the 13th because it's Australia. You know what I mean? You get the vibe. Anyways, we've got Jasmine Parr versus Shannon O'Connell for the IBF Intercontinental Bantamweight title. Jasmine Parr's pro record is 6 wins, only one coming via KO. Shannon's record is 24 wins, 12 KOs, and 8 losses on her resume. Now take a look at this. And age, this fight here, age is going to play a big factor, a very big factor. Now, on record, of course, Shannon O'Connell's record looks better than Jasmine Parr's. Listen, she's got more knockouts than Jasmine has fights. But this is the thing. Shannon O'Connell is 40 years of age.
Damn.
You know what I mean? Shannon O'Connell is 40 years of age. Yeah. 41, sorry. And Jasmine is aged 21.
Oh, wow.
Almost a 20-year difference.
That's a huge difference.
That's a huge difference. Now, what I'm saying is this a last paycheck for Shannon O'Connell? Do you know what I mean? This may be a last paycheck, just a little cheeky paycheck. Let me get paid. Let me pass the torch on to the novice, to the prospect. Let me pass the torch on. So I feel like this fight is just a passing of the torch. Yeah. Now, let's move on. On the same night, we've got a rematch. On the same card, we have a rematch. We've got Kay Scott versus Desley Robinson for the IBF World Middleweight title. Now listen, we love a rematch. Me and you both love rematches. It's always the question of the unknown. What's going to happen? Are we going to see the same results? Are we going to see something different? But let me get onto this. Now, Kay Scott's pro record stands just at 4 fights with 4 wins. You got Robinson's pro record is 8 wins, 3 of them coming via KO, and 3 losses on her resume. Now, of course, Robinson's record looks better on resume, but she lost to Kay Scott in the first fight. Now, the first fight, they fought an 8 2-minute round fight. And now on the rematch, it's a 10 2-minute round fight. So the levels are kind of moved up just a little. Robinson lost to Kay by unanimous decision back in March of this year. So they fought in March this year, and now they're going to have a rematch at the end of the year. Now, it's going to be interesting to see, can Robinson pull off the upset, or are we going to see Kay Scott win again? Let's just wait and see. Now, let's move over to the States, America, United States of America, you know, all of that, make it great again, all of that. On the same night, December 13th, we've got another great fight. We've got Tamara Thibault versus Natasha Spence in a regular middleweight bout. Listen, this is a clear mismatch for me. There's 2 different levels in this fight. 2 different level of fighters in this fight. And I'm just going to break it down for you. So Tamara, a.k.a. Tammy, however you want to say it, she has an extensive amateur background, and she has a very, very high-level amateur background. Let me just name a few. So she won gold in the Pan American Games in 2023. She won bronze in the Pan American Games in 2019. She won gold in the Commonwealth Games in 2022. She won a bronze in the Commonwealth Games in 2018. She won a gold medal in the World Championships in 2022. She won a bronze medal in the World Championship in 2019. Listen, she won a gold in both Pan American Boxing Championships in 2022 and 2017. Jeez. That's just to put some respect on her name from the get-go. Do you know what I mean? But
That's
Tam's, that's just medals, achievements. Now let's get onto her amateur record. Tam's amateur record is 51 wins, only 6 coming via KO with 14 losses. Her pro record stands at 5 wins and 2 losses. Now listen, she has a lot of amateur background. Do you know what I mean? You don't go and win these medals if you're just the average Joe. You have to have something about you, the little specialness, the little, you know what I mean, the little oomph about you to go and win these medals. Anyways, Natasha Spence has had 16 bouts, 8 of them wins, 6 coming via KO with 6 losses and 2 draws. Not the best resume, if I be honest with you, mate. Both of these women are Canadian, so it's gonna be a battle of the Canadians. You know what I mean? But in this fight again, age is gonna play a very big factor. Natasha Spence is age 39, while Tam is age 27. I feel like this is just an easy fight for Tam. She's gonna absolutely whoop Natasha Spence, mash her up. Natasha Spence, this may be a last fight, just get a little quick paycheck and let me get out of it. Do you know what I mean? So it's one of those ones. Now let's move on. We're not done with the females just yet. We're not done just yet, bro. We've got more females fights coming up. We've got more women fights coming up. So let's move over to England. Let's bring it back home. Now, let me get excited for this one. We've got Lauren Price versus Bexcy Hill. No, sorry. Lauren Price versus Bexcy Mateus. Now, Lauren Price being a Welsh bird. Bexcy coming from Colombia. Anyway, let's move on. So this fight is for the WBA, IBO, and Ring Magazine World Championships. Lauren Price holds a record for being the first Welsh woman for winning a boxing medal in the championships. Can you believe that, bro? She's the first. She holds a record for that. Let's move on to, let's quickly talk about her achievements as well. So she won a bronze in the Commonwealth Games back in 2014. She won a gold in the Commonwealth Games 2018. She won a gold in the World Championship 2019. She won a gold in the European Games 2019. And she won a gold in the 2020 Olympics. Put some respect on Lauren Price's name.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Anyways, now her opponent, Bexcy Mateus. Who the fuck is that? Listen, I think they've gone to the Colombian market and they've just picked a random bird from the Colombian market. She was probably working on a stool and they said, hey, do you want to fight for some money? And they just grabbed her. I've seen a few of her fights. Fucking hell, mate. She's not going to last a round with Lauren Price. Lauren Price will beat Bexcy in round 1.
That's a big statement.
This is a complete mismatch. This is a walk in the park. You know what? Furthermore, this is a blindfolded walk in the park. Blindfolded, you can walk in the park. This is a complete mismatch. I don't even know who came up with this. Obviously, when I mentioned the next fight after this one, everything will make sense. Yeah. So let me go on to the next fight itself. We've got Natasha Jonas on the same night, on the same card, in the same weight division. So Natasha Jonas will be facing Ivana Habazin. Now listen, this is a much better fight than the previous one I just mentioned between Lauren Price. That's a complete mismatch. This one here, it's not so much of a complete mismatch. Anyways, this is for the IBF and WBC welterweight unification. We love it. We love it. Listen, Jonas has been about for years. She's been out here for a long time. We got to put some respect on her name. She started boxing she started boxing in 2005. By the time it came to 2010, she's already won 5 ABA championships. Whoa. Now listen, ABA championships is a big thing, especially when you're amateur. You know what I mean? So when you win an ABA championships, you're something special. You're not just the average Joe. And especially winning 5, put some respect on your name, man. Anyways, so let me talk about some of her achievements as well. She won a bronze medal in 2012 World Championship. She's won another bronze in the 2011 European Championships. She's won a silver in the 2014 European Championships. Her pro record stands at 15 wins, 9 KOs, 2 losses, and 1 draw. That's Jonas's record. Pretty impressive. Why lie? Now let's move on to Ivana's pro record. Now her amateur background is not as extensive as Jonas, but Ivana's pro record is 23 wins, 7 KOs, and 5 losses on her resume. Ivana is 5 years younger than Jonas, being age 35, and Jonas being age 40. So age does play a factor, but
it does.
you know, they're kind of similar in age, 5-year difference. But hey, listen, we're gonna find out what's going on now. But Ivana is a 2-time welterweight champion, having held the IBF belt before and having held the WBC belt before. She has also held the IBO middleweight belt, so she's a 2-weight division champion.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Put some respect on Ivana's name as well. But
Yeah.
this is my thing. This is a warm-up fight for both ladies. This is a warm-up fight for Jonas, and this is a warm-up fight for Lauren Price. They're getting ready for each other because these two are going to clash next year, early next year. That's the talk of the town. The talk of the town is Lauren Price versus Jonas. Lauren Price versus Natasha Jonas in 2025. That's the fight that's going to happen.
That's going to be a great scrap.
British blockbuster bust down. So these fights are essentially just warm-up fights. We know what it is. Listen, we know exactly what this is. This is a walk in the park. You know what I mean? So it's a warm-up fight. Get yourselves ready for next year, and the next year, early, you're gonna fight each other. British showdown. So that's essentially what this is. So
yeah,
we've got that now. We've got the ladies out of the way. Now, as we've got the ladies out of the way, let's get onto the men's now. Now, you may be surprised. Most of you guys may be surprised when I say to you, when I mention this name. Doing me, what? He's fighting this weekend. What? What's going on here? But yes, we've got Jaime Munguia. He'll be in action this weekend, 14th of December. He'll be going up against a guy called Bruno Surace. Now, Ross.
Surace.
Yeah, man, Surace. You know. Anyways.
But yeah.
Yeah, bro. So Bruno Surace. Anyways, first of all, I want to ask you, when did he hear about this fight? And how did he feel when he did hear about it? Because listen, for someone of a level of Jaime Munguia, for someone who's just fought John Ryder, for someone who just fought Canelo, to not even hearing about this fight, what the fuck happened there? But anyways, let me quickly ask you about that before we get into this fight itself.
Yeah, no, it's a bit of a strange one. It's like you said, you know, Jaime Munguia is now an established, you know, former world champion himself. You know, he's been in with some top names now as well. And he's proven himself. At this point in his career, he should only be really taking top-level fights, in my opinion. So I don't know what's with this opponent choice. But as far as the promotion, I mean, I think I only found out about this fight last week, Wednesday. And I looked at it thinking, oh, wow, is that coming up next week? Like, I didn't even know anything about it. And a fight of this magnitude at a point in his career, I mean, people should know about this weeks and probably at least a month in advance, especially people like us who keep up with boxing and we're always in touch with boxing all the time. So for us to not know about it until so close to the fight, I think they just done a really poor job with promotion, if I'm being honest. And, you know, Jaime should go to his promoters and say, hey, what's going on here, man? My fight's not being promoted properly. So that's what I think about the promotion.
Definitely, I totally agree with you. Listen, like you said, and like I said before, it was a surprise when I've heard about it because I've heard literally nothing about it. There's been no there's not been nothing on social media. I've heard nothing about it. Like for you to know that Jaime Munguia is fighting, you have to go out your way, and you have to go do your research if you really want to know Jaime Munguia is fighting. Otherwise, you would not know about this fight. Listen, let's get on to Jaime Munguia's pro record. 44 wins, 35 coming via KO, and only 1 loss on his resume to Canelo Alvarez, which is the face of boxing in my eyes. But let's move on to Bruno's record. 25 wins, only 4 coming via KO, and 2 draws on his resume. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. I don't like to trash boxers. I don't like to talk down on them. But I had a look at Bruno's record, one by one. From his debut fight up until his last fight, he's fought absolute trash cans.
Yeah.
From his debut fight up until his last fight, he's fought guys who've got more losses on their resume than wins. I was like, what? How does that make any sense? What have you been doing for 25 fights? I know he's only 26 years of age, but for you to listen, let's be real. In the men's division, if you had 25 fights with no losses, 90% of the time, 80% of the time, we should hear about you.
Yeah.
We should know about your name by now, especially in 2024 with all the social media going with all the social media, we should definitely hear your name. But that's when I said, what's going on here? Why is the level of fighter like Jaime Munguia going to be fighting Bruno? It's going to be a complete whitewash. I don't see this fight going past 3 rounds. So I'm thinking, why is this fight taking place? Jaime Munguia should be fighting Edgar Berlanga.
Exactly.
Jaime Munguia should be fighting Caleb Plant. These are the fights that everybody wants to see. These are the fights that the fighters themselves want to see. So I don't know why these fights are not getting made. Maybe this is a warm-up fight for that fight in early 2025. Because Jaime Munguia and Edgar Berlanga have been going back and forth, trash talking each other. You're both in the same weight division. Why not get it cracking? Go and have it. Do you know what I mean? You both lost to Canelo. Go and have it.
Exactly. Might as well.
But Edgar Berlanga is not ready for Jaime Munguia. If he went up against Jaime Munguia, he will lose face, he will lose respect because he can't take back-to-back losses in the sport of boxing. Let's be real. So he's not gonna go and fight Jaime Munguia just after he lost to Canelo. That's not gonna happen. So the most likely fight that will happen next is gonna be Jaime Munguia versus Caleb Plant. Now I am praying that we see that fight early next year. Now that will be an epic scrap.
That would be.
Both men have lost to Canelo. Why not? Let's fight for second place. You know what I mean? You get me? But anyway, that's my thought on that. Now, as we're speaking about cards and as we're speaking about fights that nobody has heard of, let's talk about another fight that nobody has heard of up until maybe a couple of days ago or about a week ago. Are you ready for it? I know you're ready for it, but
I'm ready. Are they ready?
I don't think they're ready because what the fuck is going on here? But anyways, we've got Dillian Whyte versus Tetteh. Now, I forgot the guy's first name. What's his first name again, Darkside?
Ebenezer Tetteh.
Ebenezer Tetteh. So, okay, let's go again. We've got Dillian Whyte versus Ebenezer Tetteh this weekend on the 14th of December. Now, I'll be real with you. When I first heard this from Darkside, I was like, what the fuck is this? Who the fuck is this guy? Who the fuck is Tetteh, bro? You know what I mean? And even on the picture itself, the card, the card that you showed me, I was like, what? This guy looks like an asylum seeker. He don't look like a fighter. He looks like he fucking did court about immigration, bro. You know what I mean? Fucking hell. What's happening here? But then obviously, all jokes aside, we have to take a look at Tetteh's record. He's got a high knockout percentage. Do you know what I mean? Bruv, so but listen, forget the high knockout percentage, yeah. Let's forget about that for a second. Let's talk about Dillian Whyte. What the fuck is going on here, bro? I mean, you went from fighting the best to fighting fucking absolute nobodies. What is going on? Do you know what I mean? Like, this is sad to see. I don't want to say he fell off, but what else can this look like? It looks like a fall off. You went from being at the top fighting in the biggest stadiums like Wembley, and now you're fighting people like this, and nobody's even heard of. We haven't even heard of this fight. I haven't seen no press conferences. I haven't seen nothing about this. I haven't even seen no promotions online. Nothing. So I was like, what the fuck is going on here? Do you know what I mean? Joseph Parker called you out not long ago. That was your best fight. That was your best, that would have been your best fight to get back into the mix. I don't know why he never took it. Joseph Parker made a whole promotion video, made a whole promo video to get this fight started with him and Dillian Whyte. And Joseph Parker said, I want to rectify my mistake when I lost to Dillian Whyte in the past. That would have been Dillian Whyte's biggest fight. That fight is long gone now. Now look at Joseph Parker. He's going to be fighting for the IBF World Heavyweight Championship against Danny Dubois on February 22nd, 2025. You know what happens? If you miss the opportunity, The opportunity is gone. Do you know what I mean? Long gone. So it's sad to see what's going on with Dillian Whyte. I can't really make my head around it. Like, what are you fighting for? Are you fighting for a paycheck, or are you fighting to get close to the title shots? What are you fighting for? I'm not really. I don't really understand where.
With that.
I don't understand where Dillian Whyte is at the moment. Is he fighting for a title shot, or is he fighting for money? What is his goal right now? Because right now it looks like you're fighting absolutely nobody's for money.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like. Do you know what I mean? Unless you can tell me something different, Dark Side. What do you make of this, bruv?
Now, once again, poor promotion, but how well can you promote something that nobody knows anything about? That's kind of the problem, I guess, they have with the promoting. But look, the questions that you had, you know, is Dillian doing it for the money, or is he doing it to try and get in world title contention again? I mean, the answer to that is no for both, because the money's not going to be good in a fight like that because it's not got a lot of popularity. And the credibility of the opponent mixed with the popularity of the opponent means that the chances, you know, of that getting him into potential title fight is absolutely zero. So I personally think that this is just a fight for Dillian Whyte to sort of get back in the ring, get off some ring rust, and then potentially the next fight will be someone who we may have heard of. And I would hope at this point in his career and where he's been in his career, like you said, 94,000 in Wembley, that he doesn't sink to the bottom and stay there, because he's still in this heavyweight division and he can add to make it even more interesting. If he can, in my opinion, he needs to probably get 2 or 3 decent wins and he can be back in there with the rest of them.
Hey,
But
I mean,
he needs to beat this guy convincingly, in my opinion. And then once he's done that, the next opponent needs to be somebody that the public know.
Yeah. You know what? Speaking of someone the public need to know, Lawrence Okolie just had his fight. Lawrence Okolie just moved to the heavyweight game. Lawrence Okolie has mentioned it many times. He don't like Dillian Whyte.
Yep, that'd be good.
He don't like him as a character. Now, you just mentioned the fact that Dillian Whyte needs to put this guy to sleep. Dillian Whyte needs to finish this guy, absolutely obliterate this opponent in order for the people to say, you know what? We see something. You still got it. You still got it, bro. Do you know what I mean? You still got it. With that being said, if he beats Tetteh, I feel like the next perfect fight to get made is Lawrence Okolie versus Dillian Whyte. Because Lawrence Okolie wants to fight for the title. Lawrence Okolie wants to get fast tracked. And who better to beat to get fast tracked into the title shot with an OG like Dillian Whyte?
Very, very good suggestion. I agree with that fight 100%, because you look at where Coley is. He's just stepped into the division, so he's early in the division. You look at where Dillian Whyte is. He's regressed down the division. So it's a good fight because it's going to bring some popularity. Both guys are well known. Both guys are trying to get to the top. So it's a great fight. I think it's a perfect suggestion.
I mean, for pay-per-view buys, I think it will sell out. 2 British guys. It could even sell out. I know it will definitely sell out O2, but it could even do. Maybe I'm pushing it a bit, but maybe even Wembley Stadium with the right undercard and the right promotion. Maybe even Wembley Stadium
with a good undercard, it's possible.
Yeah, I mean, so that's my hope. I hope that Dillian Whyte beats Tetteh. Not because I don't like Tetteh, not because I'm being biased, but just for the betterment of boxing. Because if Dillian Whyte beats Tetteh, ultimately he gets to go and face. That's crazy. Ultimately, Dillian Whyte gets to go face Lawrence Okolie. Do you see how the tables have turned?
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's crazy. Like, this is what I'm saying. Dillian Whyte reminds me of the Titanic, the ship. Once upon a time, it was a masterpiece. It was floating on the sea. It was going cruising around. You know what I mean? Had many high celebrities, rich people on board. And it looked the part. You know what I mean? The Titanic was flying around, and then until it hit an iceberg, and it started to sink, and everything went downhill. This is sort of what we're saying with Dillian Whyte. He was on top of the game, like you said, 94,000 Wembley Stadium. To now fighting who? In Conor McGregor's words, who the fuck is that guy? You get me? But anyways, that's a wrap on that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the episode. and we'll see you on the rebound. Bosh.